Mike Gill, you're going to see a video, a deposition, in her words. And when it's done, I believe you're going to believe there's such a thing as the Mafia. Right. And you're also going to know about Liberty Mutual. I can't tell you which one's worse. So let's start by coincidences. The first coincidence is Shannon Donnelly, as you're going to see in the deposition, I met on the phone. I would have victims call me 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and I would sit down and speak to them. She happened to be one of them. Somebody months before that I was speaking to. The next thing I know, she's a paralegal working inside my company. Well, that's a heck of a coincidence. Never mentions before that she's a paralegal, but shows up in my company. She worked for the state of New Hampshire. And after I fired her, she went back to work in the state of New Hampshire. You'll hear that too. But that's coincidence number one. Then I was doing a video called Mafia Live and Well. I am going to ask you to go back and look at that. You're going to remember that that was about wire transfers from Penn National, Cantor Gaming, to public officials. Most importantly, I tracked them to the mob. I did. You'll see that I came out and said, Donacio, Light Tower, these were part of those wires. You're going to see wires to state police. And you can see they're paying attorneys. Now the thing about these wires is, shortly after that, the Boston Globe indicts the Costa Nostra of New England. Donacio and Light Tower front and center. Right. When I was doing that video, Shannon came in with help in the production. She looked on the table. She seen all the wire transfers. She had a look on her face. She stuck back and she said, I just want you to know that my husband's in the Mafia. Really? Coincidence number two. I'm going through wire transfers of the mob, and she announces then and there that her husband works for there. I had to put it in writing. Right. And she's going to read it in the deposition to you. Very important. It was a look on her face when she looked down at those wires. You know what the look was? And you're going to see this in the deposition. You're going to see a gentleman on that wire named Vessel. Who's Vessel? Donacio, Costa Nostra, didn't know Vessel. But I'm going to ask her maiden name. Know what it was? Vessel. She saw her husband's name. That's married name, I guess. Name on there. And turned around and knew she was caught. She couldn't have me find out her name was Vessel, because that would have mean that she came from them. And here's the secret. She came in as a victim. That wasn't Liberty Mutual's stooges, spies. It was the mob's. Right. You're going to see that she came up with a Mississippi attorney who had a deal, a global settlement. You'll see her reading it, with Liberty Mutual and Penn National. Now at the time, I didn't know even Liberty Mutual was involved. Until recently. Penn National, I wasn't even suing them. Where's the global settlement? You see, she came from the Mafia end of this through Penn National. It was their wires I caught. She was in there when I was putting that video together. She was fired the same day. You're going to hear this. Don't make the mistake. They did this globally, and it means that Penn National and the mob were working with Liberty Mutual, who's also working with the politicians in your states, Mass, New Hampshire, and this goes back to Pennsylvania. This is a real opportunity that the mob is working with these people. You give me another excuse, another piece of evidence, and I'll show you Vessel again. You remember in one of our other videos that our building was broke into. You know where they came in through? Door right behind Shannon's desk. Right. They were in to get the wires. They broke in. They pulled the camera out, the security camera. No mistakes here. They're after what I'm giving you right now. And you're going to see a read that involves the politicians and the law firms and construction companies. Remember? Wynn's coming into town. Do you know Wynn owns 30% of Penn National? We were dealing with the same crooks. Last thing, before you see this, I want you to watch our attorney Barrington, who I've said is working for the other side. I want you to look at how we wanted that information that I wanted to put up. He said as exhibits, as evidence. I didn't place it because that would have jeopardized the people that gave me that information. Barrington knew that. I called this before the deposition. In fact, I did a little snippet, maybe we'll attach it, where I said he was going to do that. Now I want to have you watch the fact that he did. And the accountant with the forged tax return. You know how he got off? Shannon again. You know where she got the information from? Barrington. See? You'll see him in there. Coincidences, right? Let's summarize. She worked for the state. She went back to the state. Her husband's in the mob. She leaves while I'm doing Mafia Live and Well, declaring her husband's in the Mafia. Now we know her name through the deposition, Vessel, and there it is. She's seen it. She's working with Liberty Mutual. Now we find out that all these attorneys, Friedman had Liberty Mutual, Morris Mahoney had Liberty Mutual, Wiggins had Liberty Mutual, Devine had Liberty Mutual. Every entity that we were dealing with, the insurer, was Liberty Mutual. How's that for a coincidence? You're going to see a video, right? Where one of the executives of Liberty Mutual was ordered to destroy evidence in a big case in Montana, which Montana won, by the way. Millions, many millions. You're going to see those crimes are being done in New Hampshire. You're going to see his deposition. See? At least the mob, you know, are crooks. Liberty Mutual tells you to trust them. Who's worse? Now, what are you going to do about it? This is who's controlling your courts. It's the insurers. The growth industry in this country is quite literally casino gambling, which is bringing in the mob. Right? You tell me, after you see this, you give me a reasonable explanation to all those coincidences. Thank you.
It will be the truth and the truth and
I
the
do.
truth.
Yes. Shannon Donnelly.
And the first rule, remember, is every single deposition, everybody violates the first rule. But you can't talk until he finishes talking, and it's vice versa, because we're trying to keep a record. So for the record, this is Attorney Brian Barrington, counsel for the Mortgage Specialists, Inc.
This is Michael Gill representing myself. Before we start, I'd like to make a disclosure here. Linda, is there anybody else listening to this phone call on your end?
My husband's in the house, but he's not sitting here listening.
Okay, so what was the voices on the your phone last deposition we had with Neil Pike?
It's just myself and my husband. Must have been him.
Was that it?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we record those and pull those out and there's somebody else other than your husband, you have no explanation for that?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right, I'd like to start.
For the record, this is the subpoena of deposition. The market is number 1 that was served by a sheriff. Did you bring any documents in response to the request for production of documents, or did you not have any?
I think you know I already don't have any because I swore to that in an affidavit.
Affidavits are not admissible in a court of law.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Would you like me to put a sticker on that?
Yes, I'd like to start. Ms. Donnelly, where do you live now?
Same place I always did, 37 Alice Drive, Concord.
How long have you lived there for?
Probably about a year and a month now.
Well, that's not always then.
Well,
So
no,
a year
I
and a
meant
month.
since I was employed with you. That's what I thought you meant.
No. Where do you work right now?
State of New Hampshire.
The state.
Yep,
So you're a state employee.
I am.
Where do you work?
DCYF, Child Protection. I'm an investigator for Child Protection.
In what capacity? What's your job title?
Child Protective Service Worker, assessment.
Worker? Assessment.
Yeah,
You worked for me as a paralegal.
I did.
How long did you... Well, the company you work at now, you've been there how long now?
I accepted the position April 3rd, 2015.
2015. And you're not a paralegal there,
Nope,
but you were a paralegal for us.
I was.
And where did you work prior to us?
State of New Hampshire. It was Division of Children, Youth and Families, same division, same department, but I was a paralegal in the capacity of child protection.
So, you acted as a paralegal there.
Yes,
So you left there as a paralegal to go to mortgage specialist and work?
yes.
And then you went back there,
Well, not right away.
but you did go back there.
I did, yes.
In the same department.
Yeah, Division of Children, Youth and Families.
So you left and they hired you back,
Yes,
but not as a paralegal.
correct.
Why did you not go back as a paralegal?
Because the money was horrible as a paralegal, and I didn't feel like they were utilizing, my abilities. There was no room and potential for growth at all.
So they hired you back in the capacity, would you call your job now in a professional capacity?
What do you, I don't
Meaning
understand.
the job that you do.
Yeah,
Do you need training for that?
I do have training.
What do you have?
I
You-
used to be a child protective service worker. It's a social worker job before I had children. I left my career to raise my children. So I have years of experience way back when I was young.
Okay. When you worked for us, you worked as a paralegal.
Correct.
What kind of things would you do?
I didn't do much for you, actually. I was only there for 7 weeks. I was trying to familiarize myself with a lot of information, a lot of cases, and I would just take direction from Kerry as to what I was supposed to do.
So you didn't do much.
Not really.
Well, we found quite a bit.
Okay.
For instance, how did we meet?
Well, I had contacted you when I saw your billboard in Manchester, and I contacted you probably like a month or two, and I was, just confiding in with you directly on the phone about some of the things that I had experienced and endured myself personally within the divorce realm and dealing with different attorneys and all kinds of things. So, and that was the last of, our conversation. I wanted to meet with you and talk to you, but that never came to, be. Didn't hear from you again. And then I had been filling out positions on Monster, on New Hampshire Craigslist, on, what's the other one, I can't remember, Indeed.com, things of that nature to get a higher paying job in the paralegal realm.
Right, so
And then I think Carrie had called me.
So-
Sorry, you asked.
coincidentally enough, you called me because you were having issues with the courts and troubles.
Yes.
So you called me as an advocate, didn't you?
Yes,
And I did take your call, and didn't I?
you did when we spoke.
And we spoke. Now, the next time I heard of you, you were employed in my company, weren't you?
I guess
What do you
Carrie
mean?
called, I was employed, I was accepted the position.
Well, you don't have to guess that. So you were employed in our company.
Yes, most
So do
certainly.
you find it coincidental that we have a communication and you approach me as a victim, correct?
I did, yeah.
You
I
did.
approached you as a victim.
Right. And I took your call and I tried to help you. The next thing,
Well,
The
didn't try to
next
help me,
thing-
but okay.
the next thing is you're employed by my company working as a paralegal.
and I was very excited about that.
Did you ever tell me you were a paralegal on the phone when you were a victim?
I don't believe I did at that time. We were talking about the divorce arena.
I don't believe you did either. So surprise to me, you were a paralegal. And you leave your job, see if we got this right, the same department now, working for the state, you're right back working for the state.
As a child protective service worker.
Right.
Yes.
So, what do you think the coincidence is that we happen to meet on the phone, you calling me as a victim, and then unwittingly, you didn't even mention you're a paralegal to me, and now you're working at Mortgage Specialist. Would you call that a coincidence?
No, I wouldn't. It wasn't on topic.
It wasn't on topic. Well, let me see. You called me regarding corruption that you believe is going on in your case.
My experiences, yes.
What would you say when you called me as a victim, what were you the victim of?
Divorce, corruption, all kinds of crazy things that I've experienced firsthand.
Firsthand, you've experienced them. So
Oh,
you're
yeah.
a witness to this. So you're a witness to the corruption in the court?
I definitely say that there's a lot of corruption going on here in this state, and that's why I called you, because I was excited about the fact that somebody was coming out saying it.
Right. So you had a situation in the court at the time?
I still do.
Right.
Many.
So let's look at it this way. So you don't consider that a coincidence that you just was working for Mortgage Specialist after we spoke on the phone. Now, did you see that I had victims groups?
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't, you told me you did. When I first spoke to you, you told me that you did, and I was excited that there was others out there, and I thought that we could, all get together and things like that. And then I had attended, after I was hired, I attended one of the, it was like, I don't know what it was
So we
called.
do have victims groups, right? You attended
I
one.
I saw one, there wasn't many there, so,
But it was a victims group.
I guess,
Yes.
yeah. Is that what it was supposed to be?
Well, you were there,
I was there.
right? And you worked for us too.
I know.
So you knew we were collecting victims, so you were a victim yourself. So what kind of group could it be other than a victims group?
Well, if that's what you want to define it as, Mike, then okay.
Were they all
But
victims there,
I
including
don't
yourself?
know. I didn't talk to
Oh, they're
everybody.
talking over each other. Sorry.
Okay.
Did
So
did you get,
you-
wait a minute, did you get that?
You're right. Were they all victims there? I don't know, yes.
We had a victims group prior to that with the people for FRM. Remember that?
I wasn't a part of that.
But you do remember that.
I don't, that's what you told me.
Oh, so you were there in the
It wasn't
victims
a part of
groups.
the MF,
Oh.
whatever it's called.
Hey, you can't start answering.
Okay, I'll wait till he finishes, but he's
You have
putting
to
words
wait
in
till-
my mouth.
You have to wait till he finishes and then speak.
Okay.
Just answer the questions.
Ask questions, please.
I did. Do you recall a victim groups with FRM that was held in Somersworth?
No.
I didn't ask you if you were there. Do you know of that victims group?
I guess I'm not understanding the question, or I can't answer
Did
the
you-
question the way it's being phrased to me.
The victim group that I had with FRM. You said you didn't attend, and you're right, you didn't. But you were aware that I had that victims group meeting in Somersworth office, the same office you work in. Is that true?
Through you. That was my awareness of it.
Right, thank you. It's on tape, so it's all true. So, in these victims groups, didn't I say the reason why we stopped having the victims group, and I made it very clear, is that I believed that we had a spy that was giving this information out?
I don't recall that that's why you stopped victims groups.
That's exactly why.
Answer your own question, okay.
Right. I'm suggesting you were the spy.
Okay,
Well,
I just
that's
think
funny.
it's
Let's
funny.
keep going on.
okay.
All right. Well, but you do admit there's corruption in the court,
I absolutely know there is.
and there's corruption with the lawyers, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we're on the same page there, right?
Yeah, but I'm a spy, right?
Well, let me finish the rest. I'll explain it to
Okay.
you. No, you're just very coincidental so far.
I know. Mike.
Person on the phone who doesn't identify themselves and why I'm working as a paralegal.
Okay.
Let's go on. what is your maiden name? I'm sorry, not your maiden name. What was your married name?
It was Vessels.
Could you spell that?
Vessels.
Say it again.
V as in Victor.
Thank you.
SS as in Sam. ELS.
E-L?
LS.
That's what I thought. Wanted to make sure. Okay. So, when you came in, were one of your responsibilities to hire attorneys, find attorneys for me to interview and talk to?
Oh, we had suggested that, and you said you thought it was a good idea.
So, we did put you in working with the ads to get an attorney for a RICO case, didn't we?
I sought finding attorneys. That was my idea, for you to find somebody outside. We had discussed it verbally, and I said you need to find somebody outside of this area, and we can expose all of this.
So, I asked you a question. Did you handle resumes for and collect them and advertising for hiring a RICO attorney?
No.
Well, then how is it that I have multiple emails with you and attorneys doing just that?
Because I was seeking people outside of the New England area to bring this to light. Remember I found the people from Mississippi?
Oh, I remember. But the question is, I just asked you if you were involved in hiring the attorneys. You're not answering the questions
I
directly.
wasn't. Carrie was involved with that. Carrie always had control over everything.
Well,
I was the aftermath.
you were the aftermath. Well, I have multiple emails from you and other attorneys.
Okay? It was probably because I was looking for people outside.
Oh, so you were. Right. And that's what I said you were doing. You were the
New England.
person hiring the attorneys.
You
In
had,
fact,
I'm sorry, I just want to say, you had various different things going on for attorneys to work for MSI, and then for other ones for the RICO.
right. Now, what we did was, it wasn't your idea for us to hire an attorney. We've had about 20 of them before you were here. So you didn't come with that idea. But you did file advertisements and got attorneys to call you and want to work with us. In fact, you would go to these attorneys and tell them the size and the complaints of the RICO, wouldn't you?
When I was looking for the RICO attorneys outside of New England, I was definitely calling attorneys and asking them to, consider. I was kind of trying to feel them out, like if they were saying like, oh, well, we're going to have to charge you this amount. I'm like, yeah, no. I was trying to find
So
somebody
you were
who
looking
was-
out for us.
I was.
Could you read that email?
Yep. It says, Dear Attorney Rhodey, this case is against several high-profile law firms and lawyers in the state of New Hampshire, Mass. The owner of the company Mortgage Specialist, Inc. has evidence to support the corruptions that transpired among attorneys/firms against the owner Mike Gill and the MSI. This all started and stems from a very high-profile divorce. This case is voluminous. The ties are exhausting, to say the least, but true. Mike Gill and the MSI lost well over tens of millions and millions from the RICO activity. If you are interested and want to discuss, please let me know. Thank you, Shannon Donnelly.
So that's from you, right?
It says it is. I don't recall writing it, but if it is, then
That is
it
your name though, right?
That is my name, yeah.
Right. And that's what I said your job was, one of them, was to reach out to these people just like you did here, right? Reach out and talk to them, just like you did and what you read here.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Stop a second, Margaret.
No, I'm not putting it in.
Okay.
You can't refer, under the rules of deposition, if the document is referred to, it has to be part of the record.
I don't believe it does. Okay. There's sensitive issues here and people's lives are at risk. And I believe you're trying to collect that information. So, you did look, like I said, put ads in, right? You were unsure of
Well,
that.
they're not ads.
Well, why don't you read this then? Would you read, is that your email?
I guess it says it. I mean, I have no idea.
But it does say your name.
It does say my name.
And you were doing that that kind of work, weren't you?
I was looking for
Oh.
RICO attorneys, yes.
Okay, so could you read that?
It says, Mitch, we would like to run an ad in the National Journal for a RICO attorney. Please provide me with the cost for this and any information regarding the regions that will be covered. Thank you.
Okay, so we have determined that that was part of your job. Now,
Okay.
you mentioned the Mississippi people. What was his name?
Don't recall.
You don't recall?
I know it was a family.
A family.
Yeah, family attorney.
A family from Mississippi.
A family law firm.
A family law firm
Yeah.
from Mississippi. Right. Hiram ring a bell?
Yes, actually.
It does.
Yeah. Couldn't recall the name. It's been over a year.
Couldn't recall the name. Hiram Eastman, right?
Yeah, that sounds
Sound
correct.
familiar? Do you remember those conversations you've had with him?
Some, yeah.
What were they?
Basically, we were talking about we needed an attorney or firm who would help us out because that there was a lot of corruption and things of that nature, and that I thought that you were a victim, and I wanted somebody outside the area to support you and our cause.
Okay, you said that. Now, you forgot his name, but you remember every word he said to him.
Well, I just remembered when
But-
you said it.
So you just told me who he was, but you didn't tell me the conversations. Would you tell me what kind of conversations did you have?
Again, like I said, it's over a year ago from what I can remember. It was basically trying to tell him about what had happened to you in MSI during the,
Right.
how many years, I don't remember. There was a lot of information. And he would say, ask information about different cases, and Carrie and I would send him information like names because they could look up certain
Right.
cases and stuff. And then we gave him like a whatever it's called, chronology of, the
You
different...
gave him all that.
Well, Carrie and I did.
Okay. But you don't remember speaking to him about who we were suing?
About who you were suing.
What were the issues? You told him about
I'm
the issues.
sure it came up eventually
Right.
because he wanted to know like everything to see if he could handle the case and that there was merit to it.
Then, so we were hiring him to represent us.
Well, we hadn't established that.
Oh. Well, we weren't in discussions to have him represent us?
It was left up to you, and
Wow.
I never even, got to that point. I mean, we just wanted him to come on board. That was pretty much part of it.
So we never really had those
You might have,
involved.
because I wasn't involved with a lot of the
Well-
conversations you had in private with him.
Private.
Yeah,
All right, well,
took some calls with him.
let's, so on our cases, your function, you took over for Linda, right? Your principal function was to do depositions, to get notices out there, right?
No, that's not what I was told from my superior. Did I help doing that? Yes, I took direction from Carrie specifically every day.
Well, here's some directions that he gave you.
Who
Big-
gave me?
Well, it says Carrie right here. Hey, Shannon, immediately after he wants you on depositions, would you list the depositions that I wanted you on from top to bottom, please? Could you read their names?
You want me to read the whole email?
No, just read all the names that you were supposed to do the depositions on. Could you read those names? Out loud, please.
Yep, hold on. Okay, in Hyder, it says Alex Walker, Larry Schwartz, Lisa Tracy, Paul Russell. In Morrison, Marissa Puzutsu or something, Darla Sedgwick, Bob Jutras, Rob Fitzgerald, Linda Nakamura, Julian Long, Eric Wynn, Tom McMillan. We will also need to discuss Linda and Julian.
All right, thank you.
I'm sorry, could I just see the date on that? I just wanted to see the date of that.
The date is 9/30/14.
No, the date.
There you go.
Okay, September 30th.
Right, right. So you know something? It hasn't been really over a year now, has it? It's been more like 10 months. And did you not say that the depositions weren't part of your job?
I never said depositions weren't part of my job.
Well, small part.
There was one, if that email came to me on September 30th,
Yeah.
I was fired October 7th.
Right. So here's the thing. The point being is we wanted you to do a lot of depositions. Don't you consider this a lot of depositions?
That is a lot of
Wow.
deposition, and I did do some depositions before I was fired.
So you were responsible for doing depositions as Linda. How many depositions did you schedule?
I was able to schedule, I think like 1 or 2, and I remember being excited about it because of all of the back and forth between scheduling with the opposing firms.
Because they didn't want a deposition, right? They were
Correct.
fighting depositions.
You're right, they were.
Well, who's the one you got?
I can't remember the names.
You mean you
I said
only
a year
got one?
ago.
You can't remember the name?
I can't, and I remember being excited about it.
Wasn't Cohen, was it?
I don't know, I can't recall.
Wasn't it? So you did one deposition.
I was successful in achieving
Right.
one deposition.
One, and you don't even remember.
I don't remember the name.
Well,
And you
So
told me
when
it
you were-
wasn't relevant.
well, it's very relevant.
Well, at the time, I was excited, and I was like, Mike,
Yeah.
I got a deposition. You're like, that's not gonna happen. I'm like, yes, it is. It's scheduled. It's
Well, the deposition
confirmed."
was a setup,
Well,
and you set it up.
okay.
Okay, so when you were dealing with the law firms, did we know who the insurers were?
Did you know who the insurers were for who?
We had multiple lawsuits, right, that you were working on.
I wouldn't say I was working on all of them. I took direction from Carrie the first 3 weeks. Nothing was going on. And I was trying to get direction.
Will you try to answer the question, please?
Sure.
The question is, did you know of the insurers? How many insurers were we suing? Who the insurers was?
I can't recall. I don't know.
You don't even remember. You don't remember one insurer?
I remember the name of one that Carrie had said to me was huge, was Liberty. She said Liberty Mutual.
Liberty Mutual.
Yeah.
That's funny. We really didn't know about Liberty Mutual until recently. But you did.
That's what Carrie told me.
Really? Well, when you were talking to Hiram, did he talk to you about Penn National?
Yeah, we talked about Penn National because that's what I was telling him when we were in conversation about you believed the systemic thing, like whatever you want to call it, RICO or whatever, correlated to something with Penn National. And
Well, you
that's
just
it.
didn't remember what you said to him.
There's pieces that I do remember.
Well, I just asked you what you remembered. You didn't remember anything, so now you remembered Hiram.
Well, you
Now
jogged my
you-
memory, and thank you for that.
Great, you're welcome. I'm hoping it exercised a little further. So, we have an email from Hiram suggesting we have a global settlement with Liberty Mutual and Penn National. So you did have that conversation. The email went to you now, didn't it?
Could have.
Right. So what? I wasn't even suing Penn National. Right.
You were bringing up a lot of things about Penn National constantly.
Was I suing Penn National?
I don't think you were ever suing Penn National.
No, I wasn't. But he knew Penn National, and he knew Liberty, as you did. Mutual.
Because he got the information from your websites. You told him to go on and look at the websites.
We never knew Liberty Mutual. Liberty,
I'm not talking about Liberty Mutual.
Well,
I thought
I'm
we were
saying-
talking about Penn National.
you had those conversations with Hiram Eastman of Mississippi,
Right.
right? Regarding a global settlement with Penn National, right? And Liberty Mutual.
Okay, I don't recall Liberty Mutual. I remember having conversations about trying to inform him with as much information about the chronology that was, provided to me about all the stuff
Was
that
there
happened.
a lot of chronology?
There was an extensive chronology.
And you forgot that too.
I don't recall the chronology.
Exactly.
I gave it to him.
So, now we've got you talking to the lawyers. You've got released this information to Hiram. Hiram understands the saying, we're going to have a global settlement with Penn National when I didn't file a lawsuit, and Liberty Mutual, which I didn't know was involved. But the email went to you. Now, what happened with Hiram?
You said that he was working with, I forget who it was, began with an M, some law firm with an M. You said, oh, he's working with them. And I'm like, he's in Mississippi. There's no way these guys can be a part of it. and you had said that they were, and that it was all like some scam or whatever, and I was like, are you kidding? Like, because I didn't get that from them.
I didn't call it a scam. I said he was a spy. And does Penn National have a casino in Mississippi? Yes, they do.
I don't know.
Well, now you know. And I accused Hiram of a spy. Do you know that Hiram never called back, right?
I don't know that.
Well, that's true. We have no emails or new communications thereafter. I told you Hiram was a spy, and Hiram, who was contacting you nearly daily through...
I don't recall them contacting me daily. I recall trying to get help for us.
Oh, so 8/28, 9/2, again at 9/2, 9/3, 9/4, 9/11, 9/11, 9/12. So there was quite a bit of contact between you and him, and it infers Liberty Mutual and Penn National. So,
Okay.
do you believe in the Mafia?
Do I? Yes,
You do.
I do.
Most people don't. Would you say
I
that?
wish I were that ignorant.
Right. Because you know it is true now, isn't it?
There's lots of different kinds of mafias.
Well, you know, the ones they call the Costa Nostra.
Oh, I don't know stuff like that. I'm saying I think that there's how one wants to define mafia.
Oh.
You know, the TV Sopranos, you want to call it that, or how should I say, other kinds of mafias.
I call it organized crime. Okay?
Yes.
So you believe in organized crime.
I do,
Is there a reason why you believe in it?
because I've experienced firsthand a lot of corruptions, and I couldn't believe the experiences that I've been exposed to in the last 5 years while being a citizen of the state of New Hampshire.
Wow. Was your husband in the Mafia?
Not that I know that he was in the Mafia, but he did. When I was going through my divorce, I hired a PI to find out about the sale of the business. And I found out through a PI that he sold, allegedly, his business to an alleged Mafia person in Massachusetts.
Well, you wrote us this letter, didn't you? That
The day
said
I was
that.
fired, yes.
Right. I
Right.
fired you.
Yes.
Do you remember when I fired you what we were doing?
What we were doing the day you fired me.
We were
Who's
working
we?
on a video. Remember? Mafia Live and Well.
Okay.
You do remember that?
I don't remember you telling me
Oh,
that.
but you believe in the Mafia,
I do.
and I was doing the video at the time.
Okay.
Mafia Live and Well. Do you remember why I was doing that video?
No, you did a lot of videos.
Yeah, but Mafia Live and Well? I mean, that's
You
kind
have
of
a lot
a...
of videos. I don't know why you
Oh.
do half of the things you do.
Well, you don't. But you believe in organized
I
crime.
do.
So, you know that I was an advocate. You called me because I was an advocate, someone that would help. So, why wouldn't I do that here? All right. So, when we were doing this video, Mafia Live and Well, do you remember I was getting information from different victims? And I was putting these pieces together in different victims. You were there the whole time. Oh, so you don't remember that.
recall what
Okay.
you're talking about
So you
exactly.
remember, I'm saying is that we found wire transfers from Cantor Gaming, Penn National, that went into Wynn Casino, that went into a few different names, a gentleman named Donacio.
That's what you said, yes.
Well-
And I remember meeting one woman at that one meeting that I went to.
Don't mention her name.
No, I'm not going to.
Good.
But
So-
that's where she had said
She was married
that.
to a state trooper, right, and took
I
this
remember her.
information out of the computer.
That's what she said,
right.
yes.
And that information was wire transfers. Wire transfers from Penn National, CD Technology, into these individuals.
Okay.
Why don't you take a look at these individuals? Can you read their name? The best you can.
Where am I looking, Mike?
You see right here? These transfers.
Okay. You want me to read them down, or?
Yeah.
Light body, 12, 10 years, 1 month, MI, United States. Wynn Resorts, 6 years, 9 months, United Kingdom. Steve Wynn, 15 years, 4 months, Ohio, United States. And then Steve Wynn again, 44, 7 years, 11 months, United Kingdom.
Just read the names, please.
Oh, okay. Steve Owen, Steve Wynn, Gadaneri, Ginger, Denzuzio.
Nazio?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Denacio. And then there's another one that's D-I instead of the E. Denuzio. J. Denuzio. Light Body 0. Light BDE. Light Body 02. Light Body 21. And Light Body 85.
And this here?
The highlighted,
Yep.
it says Penn National.
That's right. So it was all, so these are the things. These were transfers. Now, here's another one. Could you read who's on those transfers?
Wynn, King Arthur, 7 King Arthurs, King Arthur with 2 I's, King with a asterisk Arthur, King 7 Arthur, King Arthur with a U, it's spelled differently.
Right. It was a strip joint. Okay?
Sorry, I just think it's funny, it's like unbelievable.
Well, it's going to be more. Why don't you, this is an article from the Boston Globe,
Okay.
all right? And it concerns about the land deal. Could you read just this first little part right here out loud?
The highlighted or above it?
All of it,
Okay.
the first
Wynn
part.
Resort, I don't know what that is, limited, Wynn. And that says unwittingly planned a $1.6 billion Boston area casino on land linked to organized crime. The U.S. said in charging 3 men with lying to the company and state gaming regulators about the connection. The men were arrested today after being indicted by a federal grand jury on charges of hiding financial links between one of the men, an associate of the New England family of La Cosa Nostra criminal group, and land being sold to Wynn Resorts. Federal and state prosecutors in Boston said in a statement. Want me to continue reading?
Yeah.
The alleged crime family member in the case is 54-year-old Charles Lightbody.
Hold.
Oh,
That's right. Do you remember reading Lightbody on the wire transfers?
I don't. I can look at it again.
Well, that's all right. The rest
Sorry,
of us are-
I was reading
No
it
problem.
down.
Read the, so Lightbody, I want to point out, is on the transfers. Keep going.
Okay. About Lightbody's interest, according to the statement. The state investigation revealed that these 3 defendants allegedly attempted to hide Lightbody's involvement in the company because he has a criminal record, quote, prosecutors said. Want to keep reading?
Keep going.
Wynn Resorts, the gaming company founded by Steve Wynn, was awarded the sole license in September to operate a casino in the Boston area, beating a rival plan from the Mohegan Tribal Gaming Authority. The resort will be built on the site of a former chemical plant in the suburb of Everett. The 3 men are charged in yesterday's indictment in federal court in Boston with wire fraud and conspiracy to commit wire fraud.
What are the 3 men's names?
You said Lightbody was one, Wynn was the other.
Denacio.
Oh, I didn't see that in here. Denacio, I didn't
Well,
see
you
it.
pronounced it.
In here?
Yes.
Oh, there it is, sorry. Dustin Denacio.
Right.
It is.
Did you notice that Denacio was on that wire transfer too?
I do recall that name, yes.
Right. So, from Penn National Wire Service, we got wires going into Denacio and Lightbody and King Arthur, which by the way they own, into Wynn. Did you know that Wynn owns 30% of Penn National?
I didn't.
Yeah, and they use that wire. So now you know even the deal is, so we have 2 members, which I'm saying we got 3, members of the Cosa Nostra of New England, not my words again, the Boston Globe. And we have caught them in the wire transfers prior. Your husband's name was on those wires.
Are you serious?
You know I'm serious, you saw him when you were there. That's why we left that day.
My ex-husband's?
That's right, and you saw the name, and that's why
Vessels?
we left. And that's why you wrote us this disclosure. Why don't you read this disclosure now?
This disclosure? Wait a minute, back up. What are you talking about? My ex's husband's name was not on that list.
I have it on the list, and I have that, and I'm putting this as evidence here.
Huh.
Right?
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Well,
Been divorced for 5 years, so. It says, Carrie, the information I conveyed to Mike is the information I discovered during my divorce. My ex sold his pizza, quote, dough business to an alleged Mafia head, Dito Vicari. Not sure if the spelling is correct. He is the owner of New England Dough in Massachusetts. I had a private investigator go to the Lawrence location, and the PI stated that these guys were mob related. I was also told by several former pizza owners that Dito was involved with the Mafia. Interestingly, my ex tried stealing some of Dito's accounts originally in the Massachusetts area, and Dito, in turn, stole numerous accounts from ex, and his dough sale business was going under because of it. Interestingly, I was told that my ex sold the business to Dito for cash. Dito's son, John, told the PI I hired that they bought the dough business from my ex, Shannon.
so you called them the Mafia here.
Called who a Mafia?
You said they were mob related, right?
Who?
Well, the people who were in the pizza dough business.
That's what my PI told me, yes.
Right.
And I conveyed that to you.
Right. So you're still surprised we have your husband's name with them, your ex-husband. You didn't forget.
Not necessarily, because why do you think I got a divorce? He was not the man I thought he was.
Did you tell the courts he's in the mob?
I tried to convey lots of different information to the courts, but
Did you ever say to the court, my husband works for organized crime and that's why we cannot
I
show
never got
income?
that far. Never got that far. I thought financial. That's how I found out about that. He sold one of the businesses, and he was saying that he didn't sell it.
What's he do now?
He still owns his pizza business, as far as I know.
So he's in the pizza business.
Yeah.
Right. Could you read this highlighted piece here?
What is this?
Just the highlighted piece. You could read it.
Okay. It says their actual accounts are below, but all transactions are with Mass/New Hampshire, cops/attorneys, and business owners. Notice how they slightly alter the names, slash countries, yet it's the same account. These cops and attorneys are the same ones tied to Wynn Resort and various construction companies.
Well, you see what they're doing with these wires. They also bribe. You remember me saying that they take bribes and we were chasing down wires for briberies?
They were chasing down wires for
Well,
briberies.
it's just like this. What I just showed you. Those were wires and those were bribes.
Okay.
These are the same CG technologies, Cantor Gaming, and they're wiring into state troopers' accounts. Right. All right. Who's Ed?
Ed is a friend of mine. He's my best friend's dad.
Is he a lawyer?
No.
Had he done work for us as a lawyer?
No.
I mean, all these things that he wrote here?
He's a consultant. He was a consultant.
So he's the illegal consultant?
No, he was a consultant that I asked if, I said, I introduced you to him, you had a meeting with him, and you said that you wanted to have him work with us.
Right, I did. And he did work for us, didn't he?
Well, I wouldn't say he worked for you. He did some work.
I said work for us, right? So he did quite a bit of work. Didn't he do work on the Long, Nakamura, and Russell case?
Not that I recall.
Well, take a look. That's your email, and that's their inference. There you go. Here's another one we could look at. Do you remember him working on the Cohen case?
Cohen.
Remember Cohen?
Vaguely. I remember
There's
the name,
no-
but I don't remember the substance behind it.
The one who forged my tax returns. You remember that? You remember we made those accusations that my...
What's the first name with Cohen? So that I can...
I don't recall. Mark Cohen.
Oh, okay.
So he's the one with the forged tax returns. You remember the forged tax return, right?
I remember about the forged tax returns, but I can't remember players. There's so many people.
Well, Cohen was the attorney. In fact, I believe Cohen was the one deposition you got, didn't it?
I don't know, Mike, I don't
Right.
remember.
Do you remember what happened to the Cohen complaint?
I don't, sorry,
Well, you don't?
I don't.
You don't remember the people in Mississippi saying they're going to kick the Cohen complaint out?
I don't, it's
You
so
don't? Well,
much
here you go. Here's
stuff.
another email that he says that they are going to kick it out. That Mississippi said they were going to kick it out. And here's another email that you went back to Cohen with Mr. Smith, Ed Smith, and saying they understand why Mississippi said that.
Mike informed. So this says Mike informed that the Mississippi's attorneys told him that
Right.
it would be thrown out. So Mississippi's attorneys were saying, what I remember from
You
this
can read it
meeting-
right here. You don't even have to
Right,
remember.
well, I'm looking at this.
Right.
And what I'm saying is that I believe that the Mississippi's attorney were saying that it wasn't like written well or something. It wasn't like, I
In
don't know
fact,
the
it was going to be
words.
kicked out.
Because the way it was structured and stuff, that it, you know what I mean? Like they were saying that
It was written
or maybe
improperly.
there was no merit or something, I don't know.
No, there was in the third party. It was written improperly. Here you go. You can read what. Now, this is what Mississippi told me, and I told you. This is what that you were telling to Ed regarding Mississippi. Ed wrote you this back.
Okay, these are the same day, 9/17.
Right. I just want you to remember.
And 9/17.
This is something else you didn't bring up, so you again forgot this with Mississippi. So you did a lot more work with Mississippi than you might have remembered. Now, do you see where they acknowledge Mississippi and that Ed turns around and says, I can see why it's dismissed? In fact, you can read that last paragraph.
It says, I read over the Cohen complaint. I understand why the Mississippi delegation might conclude that the complaint could or would get dismissed. Most probably because it could be construed as not making a claim for which relief can be granted. I think that's what I was trying to say. I don't have the legal jargon behind me.
Well,
The merits or whatever.
so guess what? If you were a spy, and so was Ed, they could construct it in such a way that the court would kick it out, and here's a guy who forged my name on the tax return, which would validate the DRA, my claim against them and the IRS. So you can see it was pretty important. You do remember I said that was forged, right?
You had said, yeah, there was some tax information I remember that was forged, but I didn't.
And you don't remember them saying that it was a forgery?
Who said it was a forgery?
An expert.
I wasn't around at that time. I was just told when I came in.
This is a email from you with the attachment's handwriting analysis, right?
What's that? Let me see. It was probably you had said you wanted me to get another forensic expert to look at the alleged forgery because you said you wanted another opinion, and that's when I was looking for another like forensic
Bingo.
specialist.
Right. We had one, and I wanted you to get two. So that means we had it verified that it was a forgery, and I wanted another analysis. That's exactly what I'm saying, because it was a forgery. Now, on the Cohen case, where that was dismissed, did you speak to anybody else about it?
About the Cohen case?
A lawyer.
I always carry.
A lawyer. Did you speak to a lawyer?
I can't remember.
You remember speaking to Mr. Barrington, who's sitting right next to me?
Remember speaking to, having an email with Barrington about I was reviewing some work that was done, and there was a statute referenced, and it was in error when I looked at it, and I tried to pull it up because I didn't know what that statute meant. So I looked it up to review what that statute meant, and I'm like, I couldn't find it anywhere. And that's when
Did you mention the Cohen complaint with him?
I don't remember.
And remedies to the Cohen complaint?
I don't remember. I know I was told what I could and could not do with Barrington because he was handling certain cases and not others, and Carrie
You were
would tell
asking
me
him
what
about
I could.
remedies about repealed citations of RICO being incorrect.
Again, there was a case where I saw that a
So you were
statute
looking
that
to-
was filed prior to me getting there was incorrect, and I called attention to the fact that it was incorrect. So that was concerning to me, so I brought it to light.
Oh, you spoke to Mr. Barrington about it.
Spoke to you and Carrie about it, and then I spoke to Barrington about it.
That's what I asked you.
And I said I did.
So, did you see any of our videos?
I did see some of your videos, yes.
When's the last one?
The last video I saw was the deposition of, I don't know his name, I want to say Neil?
Oh, so you're right up to date.
No, I'm not actually. I just looked at that one.
Well, that was the last one.
Okay.
So, so that's up to date. So did you look at any of the ones before that?
I looked at some when I was working for you, because we were supposed to. You told us we needed to watch all the videos, and you got upset if we didn't. I was trying to look at them at work, and my computer wouldn't allow me to look at them at work, so I always had to do it at home. And then I kind of, life happens, and I got busy. I couldn't keep watching them all, and I remember you were not happy with that. And then there was a few throughout time that I would sporadically go and look on that I thought were interesting, and I was hoping that you had come to some information to shed some light on some things going on here in New Hampshire.
I'm doing that right now with you.
Oh, good.
And it includes the Mafia and organized crime.
I hope so, Mike. I
do.
hope so.
Really?
I really do.
Well,
Yes.
so, let me see. So, have you been prepared to go here? Did anybody speak to you?
No,
Nobody.
I didn't speak to anyone other than Barrington, and you asked me the other day.
So you haven't talked to an attorney about any of this?
Not that I recall.
What do you mean you don't recall?
I don't have an attorney for this.
Do you have an attorney?
I have an attorney for a lawsuit that I have pending.
Oh, and what's his name?
Finus Williams.
Really?
Yeah.
So, with Ed, you agreed that he did legal work for us.
He consulted in his professional opinion and his education as a consultant.
And what did he consult? Legal matters only?
Legal matters, no. I think structure of your pro se. It was an opinion about your pro se.
Isn't that legal instructions?
I guess if you
What's
wanted
pro
to
se
define
is?
it that way, you were asking for help because you
And he
couldn't
did.
write things in the manner that they needed to be presented.
Right, so we depended on other people, and isn't that how our cases get violated?
How your cases get violated?
Well, I just showed you Cohen. It was written improperly, wasn't it?
I don't know what who wrote Cohen.
Did not the people from Mississippi say it was?
They said that they thought it would be it could and would be thrown out because of the way it was structured and the merit. Or
from
something.
Ed, right? Right.
I don't know.
And who else did you work with? Mr. Barrington, right? Did he work with you on Cohen?
I don't recall.
You don't recall?
Like I said, I recall reading some whatever motion or whatever it was, and I saw and I go, what is that statute? I looked it up, and then I realized, I'm like, it doesn't exist. And then I realized it was incorrect, and I called attention to it immediately.
Well, who wrote it?
I don't recall.
You noticed it was incorrect.
I did.
So it was written by someone that you could tell that it was wrong.
Because I looked into it.
Does it look like it could be sabotaged?
Does it look like it could be sabotaged? I don't.
Well, how about
understand
this?
the
I'll make
question.
it easier. What happened? It got kicked out for that exact reason. So that's a pretty good sabotage, the one that works, isn't it?
Well, it should. Like I said, I called attention to it and
Right.
could have been changed.
Now, when watching these videos, right, that I made you watch, don't forget you came as a victim. So you were watching the videos and reading it before we even met. You didn't see the video Mafia Alive and Well? You got fired during it.
I can't remember. There's so many. I did see one, and that I believe had something to do with it, and it
Had something to do
It
with
makes
you and you
sense.
don't remember it?
had something to do with me.
Well, your husband was one of the wires.
Well, that's awesome. I think that's great if you have information about
Really?
that. I would love to have that brought forward.
So let's summarize by this. You bring Penn National with the Mississippi people who put it in writing that it's a global settlement between Penn National and Liberty Mutual, one of which I wasn't suing Penn National, and Liberty Mutual we didn't even know about at the time. And we're going to go further coincidence that you work for the state and your husband's in the Mafia. You quit the day that we have your husband's name shows up on.
I didn't quit, I was fired.
You were fired because I asked you if you were involved in this, and you wrote what I just had you read.
I confided in you what happened to me in my experience with my divorce and my ex and the court system, as it repeatedly has been happening to me for the last 5 years.
And my point is, I believe, and I'm saying this, you set it up, you came in as a victim, you got in there, your husband does work for the Mafia, you were involved in Penn National,
It's
you
not
brought
my
a
husband.
Mississippi, previously, a Mississippi attorney who wanted to settle those pieces, and they didn't even know about Liberty Mutual. All set. Just before you go, Mafia, Liberty Mutual. Which one's dirtier? Which one's making more money? Which one's more corrupt? Well, I'll tell you what. I've attached a deposition. Just a couple minutes. This deposition was taken by an executive in Liberty Mutual. He only speaks of the CEO of the company doing a national cover-up. National. Watch it. Might make you some money. One last thing, too. Listen, I got a question. I've been asking myself this the whole weekend after I had done that deposition. If I wind up with a bullet in my head, just saying, would you go on with this? Would that prove my point? Or did I just take a bullet for absolutely nothing? I mean, it's just a question I have. Thank you.